Newell's old boys were also tweeting last night about, now you know why we named the stadium after their stadium is the Estadio Marcelo Bielsa. And I'm delighted to say Tim Vickery is on the line to tell us about the man who seemed to win football yesterday with his press conference at Leeds United. Tim, a bushfire swept the internet yesterday afternoon, suggesting that Bielsa was about to step away as the manager of Leeds United after the Spygate controversy. And in fact, nothing could be further from the truth. He just opened his books and decided, yeah, of course I've been spying. I've been watching everything because I am the all-seeing, all-knowing man of football.
Indeed, yeah. Marcelo Bielsa probably would kill his granny, but he'd do it very surgically, and he'd enjoy apologising for it afterwards. He is, I mean, I've told this story so many times before, so please don't stop me if you've heard this one before. But I would like to tell you about the first time that I encountered him 20 years ago now. He was coach of Argentina at the time. It was the 1999 Copa America. His side had just lost 3-0 to Colombia. He'd watched his centre-forward miss 3 penalties, and he himself, Bielsa, had been sent off. And the first question in the press conference, Marcelo, what did you make of the refereeing? And he just stares at this, a play. He doesn't make eye contact with anyone, just staring into space. And he said, well, one doesn't have the habit of commenting on the activities of the match day officials. But what I will say is that in respect of my expulsion, the referee was entirely correct because I protested in an ill-mannered form. And I'm thinking, bring it on. Let's have some more of this. And exactly as you said, when the press conference was announced yesterday, my heart's in my mouth thinking he's going to walk. He's going to walk. I was worried as soon as Leeds issued that statement saying that they had to remind him of the club's integrity and honesty. I thought, well, he may walk. He's got a track record of doing that. Instead of which, he gave us a masterclass. And I think his professional pride had been wounded by these accusations. So there were 2 points that he wanted to respond to. One, the idea that he had been cheating. And as he says, I mean, this is not against the letter of the law. He will now, I think, accept that it may be against the spirit of the law as it's interpreted in England, and I think he may decease in these spying activities now. But also he wanted to especially address the point that sending these little last-minute spies was the factor that was helping him win football matches. I think his professional pride was really stung by that. So what he was going to do, he was going to show you, you were going to get a glimpse into the mind and the match day preparations of Marcelo Bielsa. And what a masterclass he gave you. And you really see there that this isn't a profession for the mentally sane, is it? I mean, the hours and hours and hours of preparation that go in. You wonder after all of their tactics and their variations were surgically explained, you wonder if Derby County now regret the bleating and the moaning that they did after it. So Bielsa has come out making his point, showing us exactly the hard work that goes on behind the scenes, all of the insane levels of preparation. I remember him once when he was still in Argentina saying to a player there, a player asked him, don't you ever sleep? And Bielsa said, while you're sleeping, I'm thinking of ways for the team to win. That's Marcelo Bielsa, and what an asset he is to English football.
Yeah, I did wonder, and I guess the answer to this question is no, Tim, because you've obviously heard things about Marcelo Bielsa in previous iterations about him being this freak of detail, being on an attention level that is above most other managers in the world. So this mustn't have come as any big surprise to you yesterday when he opened to what was to us really a Pandora's box of evidence.
No, I've been rubbing my hands with glee ever since he came to England, because I've been thinking, oh, it's so different from the old days when the substance of the team talk was, well, that's their side, we're better, go out and beat them. I mean, I think the baseline is Bielsa probably believes that, but he's going to give his team every bit of information. And he watches video after video after video, and he seems to have 6 eyes because he can watch 3 games at the same time and draw rational and intelligent conclusions about them. He is a one-off. And he's not really a product specifically of Argentine football culture. He's a product of Marcelo Bielsa. And he's from a very distinguished family in the city of Rosario, a very distinguished family of lawyers. I mean, his brother was an extremely prominent politician. And he was something of the black sheep of the family going into football. But he went into it with everything. And once he saw that he wasn't going to make the grade as a player, he chucked that up and went into coaching. And he has given that everything. And he hasn't won, as he himself would be the first to point out, and he almost enjoys pointing out, he hasn't won that many titles, but few coaches in world football are as influential as Marcelo Bielsa. He is the career who has launched 1,000 careers.
Yeah, no, that's true, and we've kind of seen that. There has been a massive outcry, though, from English football, which seems not to really tally with their own core values, the whole sense that actually perhaps English football has had its own blind spot about this in a way.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way, doesn't it? I think, as Tim mentions there, I think Derby County look a little bit foolish now, do they? Like, I don't think they expected this sort of response. And I see Martin Keown complaining as well in the newspapers this morning that we should be upholding ourselves to higher values. He who screams in the face of Ruud van Nistelrooy after missing a penalty. There is kind of an irony here, Tim, isn't there? Snobbishness almost from the protectors of English football.
Yeah, well, I am English, and I've spent the last few days laughing at Morecambe and Wise and listening to madness. You can't get much more English than that. But, 25 years on the other side of the Atlantic have given me a little bit of a perspective. And I think maybe there are two great gifts that England has given to the world. One is football, and two is hypocrisy. And both of them come together with the Marcelo Bielsa story.
Yeah, it's amazing. One of the things that strikes me now is just how successful he's been and how quickly he's been successful in English football. That it's weird, and it's I guess it's a knock on English football that nobody has thought to get this guy involved up to this point.
Yeah, perhaps, although the big test is coming. Bielsa's few league titles, when they came in Argentina, when Argentina was playing the very short season, just the teams playing each other once, 19 games. In his previous times in Europe, because it's a very, very intense method of play, really intense. You've got to run. If you're going to press the opposition in their half of the field, it's a physically exhausting type of football. And we've seen both with Bilbao and with Marseille that the side started very, very well, but really physically they ran out of steam in the business end of the season. So it's going to be very, very interesting to judge Bielsa's work with Leeds from kind of mid-February on. Business end of the season, when you really need the points, how much will his Leeds team still have in the tank? And I think we need to defer judgment until then, because that's always been his stumbling block in Europe. Let's see if he falls over that one more time.
It's interesting kind of listening to that, about the high octane level that Bielsa goes to, because you say he's a product of himself rather than being a product of any sort of environment he's been in. But at the same time, that high octane type of management is exactly what is popular at the moment. Is it exactly what is successful at the moment? If you look at the top of the Premier League, you look at Pep Guardiola, you look at Jurgen Klopp, you look at Unai Emery almost kicking every single ball for that Arsenal team. So there are similarities between Bielsa on kind of a superficial level, I guess, and the rest of the footballing world right now and what is on vogue.
Yeah, very much so. And he was Bielsa was one of the very few people who Guardiola consulted before launching his own career. There's quite a lot of Holland, the whole old Holland 74 in what Bielsa does. Sampaoli tried it. It was disastrous for Argentina in the last World Cup, but it's been successful for the Chilean national team and for Sevilla. Sampaoli is a self-confessed Bielsa disciple. He once wrote, before they'd even met, he once wrote to Bielsa apologising for having been unable to put his idea into practice in a satisfactory manner with one of his early clubs. So this is a school of football which has its devotees in the top echelons of the world game, and it seldom makes for a dull match, because Bielsa's sides, they set out to impose themselves on the game. They will give the other side the opportunity to play on the counter-attack. So when it comes unstuck, it can come very badly unstuck. But it doesn't mean that there are too many cautious 0-0 draws, because his sides set out to strangle you in your own half of the field and really impose themselves on the match.
Tim, I just wanted to ask you a quick question about Gonzalo Higuain before we let you go here. What's the standing of Higuain at the moment? Is he anywhere near as good as he has been in the past? Is there a possibility that he has some kind of late flowering in his career, and that a move is exactly what he needs to regain some of the form that made him one of the best strikers in Europe for a period there?
Well, on the plus side, he would seem to be the type of player that Chelsea need, and the coach knows him very well from working together. On the negative side, you'd worry about his age going into the Premier League at this stage in his career, and he is a player who sometimes, he looks so sluggish. He looks like he's pulling a tractor behind him. And a tendency perhaps to put on a little bit too much weight. So I'm a little bit doubtful about whether he can be a consistent goal scorer at this stage in his career in the Premiership. Perhaps more interested in Chelsea's attempts to sign Leandro Paredes, another Argentine from Zenit in Russia, because he would be an interesting backup, I think, to Jorginho, a kind of midfielder with a lovely range of passing who can dictate play from deep.
Okay, good stuff. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. It looks like it's a nice sunny summer's morning in Rio.
Yeah, the long hot summer's not passing me by. You get me up and out of bed very, very early so I can enjoy this wonderful sunshine.
Very good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us, Tim.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Tim Vickery online from Rio. Apparently it's 26 degrees.
I was beginning to feel guilty for getting him up out of bed so early. No longer do I feel guilty.